Hey, lifers, Dustin here. Hopefully you can see and hear me. YouTube says everything is going good. Had a few technical difficulties on YouTube's side before the stream started, so hopefully everything is going good. How is everybody doing? I hope you all had a great week and a great weekend. I definitely did. The Philadelphia Eagles embarrassed the number one defense in the NFL to cruise to the Super Bowl, the Eagles' third. So I had a great night last night. Hey, Dean. Hey, super long name. Hey, also super long name. Boiler Squad, Parker Shelton, Dean, Dennis, Jack. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. So this is going to be a little bit different than it has been the last, actually every stream I've ever had. I want to do college football news. So there hasn't been a whole lot. It's still kind of in the little bit of a dead period until really March. National Signing Day will come and go in February, and then NFL Combine and all that stuff. And really, March is when the off-season news will really start to happen. But I do have a handful of stories here to talk about with you guys. The two biggest ones that I think I could talk about the longest, I'm going to save until the end, which is ACC released their 2018 football schedules. We can look it over the schedules with you guys, and the NFL playoffs, which I alluded to, where the Eagles and Patriots are going to meet up in Super Bowl 52. So even though this is a college football channel, I'm perfectly fine talking about some NFL after that as well. So, yeah, we got 60 people in here already, so that's pretty cool. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and if you enjoy the stream at any time, just make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If YouTube has suggested this video to you, either while it's live or in the replay, and you enjoy college football content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you are in the live chat, definitely make sure to engage. We'll try to talk to you guys as much as possible. Thank you, Keegan. I appreciate it. But yeah, I want to get through a couple of these stories. None of them are good. Every single one is sad. So kind of power through some of these. Unfortunately, off-season news doesn't typically tend to be like, look, this awesome person did this awesome thing. It tends to be suspensions or fights or drugs or, in this case, a death. So we definitely are gonna talk about some of that. Hello, JP, the gaming vlogger. Hello, everybody. Patriots 27, Eagles 20. I don't know. So, real quick, before we get into everything, I'll save that for the NFL discussion. A few notes to start. I'm going to have new videos every single day, all week. They're going to go live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. I will do another live stream again next Monday night at 9:15, same time every week. I might start trying to get it down to 8 o'clock. I know 9:15 is kind of late for some people on the East Coast, but it's kind of right now the earliest I can stream. I'll try to get down. Get that down a little bit earlier. Hey, Bradley Anderson. All right. I wonder if that'll show up on the stream. I'm still getting used to live streaming. Like, I can see messages. I wonder if you can see. I just put somebody in timeout. Just don't be a jerk in the chat. I will. If I see you, I will do something. No, it doesn't show it. Okay, I put somebody in timeout. It didn't show you guys. First story I'm gonna talk about real quick. I'm not going to harp on it a lot. Last week, YouTube did announce that there is a new monetization policy. You have to have 4,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers in the last 12 months in order to be monetized. I meet that criteria. I'm perfectly fine. Hashtag humble brag. I actually, thanks to you guys are really the ones doing it, but I have met that watch time so far in January. So this slow month. So I'm good. Live streams really help out. But the reason I'm starting this off is saying if there are other YouTube channels that you watch that don't quite meet that and are struggling in some way, definitely make sure to kind of prop them up. It's been kind of demoralizing to a lot of other YouTube creators, and I understand that, especially if they were on the cusp of being monetized. So you won't be able to give them super chats, but if they have a product, maybe watch the video a little longer if you're really enjoying the content. however it is that you can help them out, definitely make sure to do that. And January for monetization on this channel has been dumb. There's no money in YouTube in January. This is my first real off-season, my first real January on YouTube. And they were not wrong in saying that it's bad. So if you want to support this channel, the best way to do that right now is to watch, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff. But during a live stream like this, if you want to throw a super chat here or there, donate $1 or $2. There's no pressure. You definitely don't have to. But if you do, it'd be much obliged. And it's the only way to really guarantee that I will see whatever it is you have to say. So there is that. So let's start with actual news real quick. Hashtag humble brag. Let's start with, you know what? How about this? Let's change it up. The Milkman says, do you think Miami will be as good as they were last year? I don't know. They're going to have some rebuilding. I think the defense was impressive, and I think that's something that's going to keep going. They have to get better at, first off, injuries. They have to, having injuries really hurt them, especially in the running game last year. Quarterbacks have to make better decisions, but that does lead to a story. Miami sophomore quarterback Malik Young's football career is over after a neck injury he sustained in the Orange Bowl against Wisconsin. He kind of hinted at it on Twitter, and then the team confirmed it, I think, yesterday. It really sucks. He's one of the reasons that team started 10-0 and really blossomed out to number 2 in the nation. And he got better as the year went on. The play I remember most about him this year was the interception against Notre Dame that felt like a dagger in the Irish's heart in that game, even though it was only, I think it was 17-0 when he did that in the second quarter. So whenever a player's career is cut short due to injury, I always think that sucks. So that's story number 1. Again, none of these are good stories. I think the biggest college football story this week is probably Washington State quarterback Tyler Hilinski, who tragically took his own life with a rifle in his apartment, I think last Tuesday. I was actually going through comments on the channel, and somebody talked about it in one of the video comments, and I was like, whoa, what? He played very well when he came in for Luke Falk during the season, whenever Falk had some troubles on the field with turnovers and not being able to move the ball at times. Played brilliantly, I thought. I thought Washington State was in great hands with him. Seemed like the entire future was there for him. And it's always a shame when somebody that young makes a decision like that. And obviously my thoughts and prayers are going out to his family and the whole Pullman community. It seems to have hit that whole town and university pretty hard. It goes without saying, but people need to say it more, I think. If you have any issues, if you're struggling with anything, if you're bummed out, if you're not yourself, if you're losing interest in things that you used to have interest in, definitely make sure to reach out and talk to someone. That may just be getting a beer with a friend. That may be going and getting actual counseling. That may be medication. That may mean new change of scenery. Whatever it is, just don't do that. Don't let it get to that part. The weirdest and saddest thing of that is Mike Leach said that he didn't even seem to show that many symptoms of depression. Not that there are symptoms of depression for everyone, but still, make sure you tell people you love them. Make sure you're reaching out. Make sure you're checking in on people. Make sure everything's okay, because that's always a tragedy, especially with a kid that seemed to have so much ahead of him. So, another not great story. Kansas State's head coach Bill Snyder's grandson, Matthew Snyder, was found dead this week. The official stance on it is that it was called it's been called unintended with no foul play. So it wasn't like he was sick. It wasn't like somebody broke in. So that makes me think it was either accidental or purposeful drug overdose or suicide. So again, this just highlights nobody is safe from depression or from accidents. Just be careful. Just watch out for people. Watch out for everybody. His father was Sean Snyder, Bill Snyder's son. He was an All-American punter, and he has been an a special teams coordinator since 2011 at K-State, but been on the staff as an assistant since he graduated in 1994. So, yeah, eat the chicken gaming. I agree. It's what happened in Pullman is not good. Somebody said thoughts on U of A. So because college football is vast, U of A could mean University of Alabama or it could mean University of Arizona. Speaking of Arizona, if that's what you were referring to, former Arizona head coach Rich Rodriguez had another claim filed against him in the sexual harassment that I actually talked about in the video where he got fired. That's kind of the reason that Arizona gave for firing him after the conclusion of an investigation. This one is also against Rich Rodriguez's wife and the university, and it claims that the alleged victim's husband as well is also filed in the suit. So it's the couple against Rich Rod, his wife, and the university. It includes an additional $8.5 million lawsuit, bringing the total to $16 million. And it includes the same allegations as the first one, but adds slander, defamation, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, according to the plaintiff. I guess that's the word. I guess you have plaintiff and defendant. So according to the plaintiff, Arizona players were sending her dick pics and lewd sexually harassing text messages. She went to Rich Rod about the issue and he did nothing. So now she's suing him in addition for that because of stress that it put on her and apparently her husband. And the last story before we get to NFL playoffs and the ACC scheduling is Stanford senior quarterback Keller Christ has decided to transfer. He took the job over from Ryan Burns in 2016, but lost it to KJ Costello in 2017. He'll finish up at Stanford with 1,926 yards and 19 touchdowns. He is a senior. He's graduating in May, so he'll be a grad transfer, and he'll be able to play immediately at any school that he lands at. So those were the actual stories for the week. Chat didn't refresh. There we go. Thoughts on Easton, rather. I think it's good. I think Washington is a good place for him. I think him and Jake Browning at times seem to have. I mean, I would put Jake Browning ahead of him, but I think they have similar skill sets from what I've been able to see. So I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's a good pick. Will Hurts transfer? I don't know. I don't think so. There's no indication he will. I mean, he cut his dreadlocks off, and I actually found out about that from Tua tweeting it. You know, at the championship walk, they seem kind of like big brother, little brother. So he's already a sophomore. Transferring is, you know, you only get 1 year at the next school. I don't know. I don't see him transferring. I'm sure Alabama can figure out a way to incorporate him into kind of a run-based offense, and you know, he's the perfect Wildcat player, right? He can come in and run it. He can throw it. He is probably the most dangerous runner on the team. So, can I play Minecraft on my channel? Yeah, unfortunately, no. I'm too old. I don't get the Minecraft thing. I know that was a joke. You said joking. I don't get the Minecraft thing at all. I don't understand why kids like it. I don't care why. I don't know why it's entertaining. Can you do a video on certain battle cries? Yes. I actually have one not listed. Not one that you've listed. I have one on Rock Chalk Jayhawk coming out in a week or two that I've planned. Will Bo Pelini ever get a job? He's at Youngstown State still, right? I don't think he got let go of... Yeah, he's still there. So he has a job. Faux Pelini doesn't. Faux Pelini sits at home and tweets. What do you think about Liberty's movement to the Sun Belt? I'll have to do a little bit more research on Liberty football. I want to put a video just about the rise of Liberty football this offseason. But last I heard, they are not interested in joining a conference if they can help it. They want to be independent on their own because they have that evangelical base that they think they could be like the BYU or the Notre Dame to evangelicals. And if they can manage to do that, I mean, I have a friend in Georgia who got a degree from Liberty Online. If they can pump out a fan base nationally based on the religious whatever that they have, they may not need to move to the Sun Belt, but if they do, I think the Sun Belt will probably be the conference to move them to. They would be in the East. App State's, I don't think App State's that far from Liberty because App State's kind of northern North Carolina. So that would make sense. Thoughts on or talk about the new NCAA transfer rule. What new NCAA transfer rule? Maybe I missed something. I know they were talking about this isn't a transfer rule, but I know they're talking about voting on a redshirting rule to go back to kind of the older way the red shirts used to be, where you can play in up to 4 games and still be considered a red shirt, and I think that's a good idea. Will the Pac-12 have a team in the playoffs next season? Obviously, that's hard to tell right now. But the Pac-12 seems like it's the 5th best conference, at least in 2017 it seems like it was. I have to keep thinking back because I, for some reason, keep thinking it's 2017 and then I called last season the 2016 season. But there's no reason that, I mean, I'll be really interested to see what Arizona can do with Sumlin. Can Sumlin and Tate be kind of like a Johnny Manziel? That'll be kind of interesting. Right now, I would say there's probably not a favorite in the Pac-12 to get back in. But with no Sam Darnold, maybe Washington? I don't know. Hey, Kobe Bittman. How much longer do you think Nick Saban will be coaching? I don't know. He is... How old is Saban? I know his birthday's on Halloween. He's 66. That's still relatively young as far as coaching. I mean, Bill Snyder is 134, I think. So there's still plenty of time. It will depend. For Saban, it will depend on if he gets bored at Alabama and moves to the NFL. If he moves to the NFL, that's it. Whenever he's done in the NFL, I don't see him coming back to college. Just a hunch. I would say at least 5 more years, much to the chagrin of everybody in the country. Are you surprised that Bryce Love is going back to Stanford? A little bit. I think he's the first ever player with 2,000 rushing yards to return to school the next year. So, I guess he wants to put the end of that dry spell about Heisman Trophy. And, I mean, I'm just speculating. I don't know the kid. But in the back of his head, if I was him, I would be like, man, I would have won the Heisman if I didn't get hurt. If I didn't have all those injury games. I saw it. Proposed rule. Players might be able to play after transferring without sitting out. Oh, okay. I hadn't actually heard that particular rule. I've heard it before, but I didn't know it was going to be proposed this year. I don't... I like it, but I think you should be able... Because I don't... If you're transferring... Like, if I was a student at Clemson, and I wanted to transfer to... Whatever, Georgia State, right? Say I was from Atlanta, I want to go back to Georgia State. I can do that. There's nothing that says I can't. But they, for some reason, because they're football players or basketball players or whatever in general, they can't do it. I'm fine with them transferring. I don't think they should be able to do it every year. So I think there should be some kind of a limit to them being able to transfer. I don't think your freshman year you could play at Georgia, your sophomore at Baylor, your junior at UTEP, and your senior year at Oklahoma. You know what I mean? I think they should limit it to probably 2 transfers. I don't know. But I'm not in favor of no penalty. You can just do it whenever you want. Dustin, did you throw snowballs at Santa to celebrate the Eagles win last night? No, I live in a very hot state, so no, I did not. I would have. I would have if I had a snowball. I have already decided that if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I'm going to Philly for the celebration. That's absolutely happening. I did scream a lot yesterday. That game was unbelievable. And then, of course, the refs helped the Patriots. I am a Pac-12 fan. Do you think Oregon can get to a New Year's Eve game or a medium bowl? Yeah. As long as Herbert is healthy and everything's good, I believe in Cristobal. I think he's a good coach. It'll be interesting to see what he does, what his coaching style is. He's the first-time head coach, I believe. He's been a position or an assistant coach, but yeah, I think you need a little bit of breaks. Bryce Love, of course, coming back does hurt that a little bit, but you're going to miss Royce Freeman. You're going to figure out a running game. Do you think Alabama should have an NFL team? Why or why not, and where would it be? No, there's no interest. Alabama's kind of in the middle of Titans, Saints, Falcons territory. So everybody already kind of cares about football, have your team, but it's still Auburn, Alabama. Could you do an NFL mock draft? Probably not. For the simple fact that even though I watch the NFL a lot, I love the NFL, I'm not familiar enough with teams in the NFL to know what they need. And with the Browns being the number one pick, God only knows what they're going to do. There's an excellent chance those bozos are going to trade the number one pick to some... They're going to be like, this is the player we need, and it's going to be like the 48th best player on the board. Ugh. Who could be a potential dark horse in the SEC next year? Arkansas. Chad Morris takes over as head coach at Arkansas, and I only say that because I don't believe Florida would be a dark horse. I think Florida's probably, with Dan Mullen coming back, probably going to be the second best team in the East behind Georgia again next year, and they will be building very quickly once he can find a quarterback. But Chad Morris, everything Clemson's doing was set up by Chad Morris. And then at SMU, remember, he almost beat UCF last year. They had him. They sacked Milton. I think they had like 3rd and 19, and they somehow... No, UCF sacked SMU, and it was like 3rd and 19, and they couldn't convert. That's what it was. So they almost beat UCF. They almost tied them, at least, sent it into overtime. So I believe in Chad Morris. I think it'll only be a couple years until there's a Bobby Petrino-like season there. Which is more competitive, college football or the NFL? Overall, Chiefs MM1. I would say the NFL. Even though we just went off a year where the Browns were defeated, went 0-16, they lost a lot of those. I mean, they lost 3 games in overtime. So there was a lot of those games that one play could have gone one way or the other. Georgia State lost to Penn State 56-0. FAU got blown out by Wisconsin. So as good as some of those, especially FAU, I know Troy beat LSU, but Troy lost to Boise, who lost to Washington State. So I know transference and all that stuff, but overall the NFL still has more parity than college football right now. Now within the specific conferences, that might be different. But if you just look at college football at the FBS level and the NFL, I think the NFL has more parity. Refs did not help Patriots. People need to stop with the excuses. Okay, Drew Rockwell. So let's go ahead and start talking about the NFL real quick. Here's my take on that game. Do I think, I don't really even hate the Patriots that much. I'm sick of them winning, but I also recognize that if I could trade the Eagles' history for the Patriots' history, I would do so in a heartbeat. Deflategate, Spygate, all that, I would do it in a heartbeat. So I also understand there's jealousy involved. And once you realize that, you kind of don't hate the Patriots as much. That being said, I wanted the Jaguars to win. Do I think that the refs were purposely trying to help the Patriots win the game? No. It looks bad when the first player or first person to congratulate Tom Brady at the end of the game is a ref. It looks bad when the referees are giving handshakes and hugs to Bill Belichick running off the field. That looks bad. It's bad optics when a ref is smiling and giggling in the middle of a Patriots touchdown celebration. That looks bad. But I really don't think that they are being paid by New England or any of this. Remember, New England hates Roger Goodell. New England, in a sense, hates the NFL. So we all, or the general public, thinks that the NFL is trying to help the Patriots. The Patriots think the NFL is out to get them. So it's all about perspective. But I will say that touchdown right before the half, where it was, what was the score? 17-7 at the half? 10-7? Something like that. 14-7. 14-10 at the half, I believe. That touchdown changed the entire game, and that was set up by that pass interference call on the edge that was absolutely not pass interference. So, things like that help the Patriots. I was watching something on ESPN earlier today. Jaguars had 6 penalties for 98 yards. Patriots had 1 penalty for 10 yards. It happens. Sometimes it happens. But then you look, and that 1 penalty was a holding call on a kickoff. Going back to 2001, Tom Brady's first year at the Patriots, nine teams have had no penalties on offense or defense in the game. It's only happened 9 times in 16 years. 4 of those are the Patriots. No other team has had more than 1. Things like that look bad. So, that's all I'm going to say. I don't think they were purposely trying to help. I can tell you selfishly as an Eagles fan that I hope the referee crew that's in the Super Bowl is watching those things and may accidentally, just to avoid heat, give the Eagles a few extra calls. I'm not going to blame them if they do. But yeah, I don't think the Patriots cheated, but I do think that penalty, because it's a spot foul in the NFL, and I think it's probably, pass interference is probably going to go to being a spot foul in college soon too. But that penalty changed the entire way that game went. The NFL wouldn't rig for a team they or the public don't like. Yeah, I agree, Chantilly. I don't think it was... Do you think Jonathan Taylor was a better freshman than Adrian Peterson as a freshman? Probably not, because I would have to. That's something I'd have to crunch the numbers on. My immediate reaction is no, because I remember Adrian Peterson as a freshman being someone I just could not stop taking my eyes off of, even though Jonathan Taylor had to have had better numbers this year. But I just remember watching Adrian Peterson run and just being like, oh my God. So, based on that gut instinct alone, I'm going to say no. Jonathan Taylor was also in a better system for him than Adrian Peterson was. When he was there, it was very much my memory of it anyway. I'd have to go back and look. Very pass first oriented offense. Do you think the Falcons will make history by playing home for the Super Bowl next season? Skittle Steve? No. I will continue to say no. That has nothing to do with the Falcons. You could have put blank here for whatever was next Super Bowl. I would say no. The Vikings proved. Until it happens, I'm going to keep saying no. What do you think about USF and UCF joining the Big 12? I've actually been thinking about making a video on that as well. I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me. The fact the Big 12 has 10 teams makes me irrationally angry. So I would, I'm perfectly fine with it. Because the Big 12 they don't care about geography anyway. They already have West Virginia. I think getting into Florida a little bit would be kind of a good idea, but we'll have to see. Let's say Michigan loses 3 to 4 games this coming season. Do you think Jim Harbaugh is done? I do. I think he is on the hot seat. I think he's firmly on the hot seat this season. When he got there was so much promise and so much energy and hope and optimism for Ann Arbor. If he can't get it done, if he loses 3 or 4 again, I don't think he'll get fired. He may decide to leave. I don't know. I don't know the composition of the guy, but that's just a feeling I have. I do feel there's something about what's going on in Michigan that makes me feel like, let's just say I think he's praying Shea Patterson goes. Can't go this year. Kevin Ziegler. Dustin, do you like TCU over Ohio State on September 15th? Does TCU stand a chance? Yeah, TCU stands a chance. Where's that game being played at? Sorry, my webcam is on top of my... It's at TCU. My webcam is on top of my computer, so anytime I touch my computer, it jiggles. Sorry. Yeah, it's at TCU, too. Actually, I feel like... I might be wrong. I feel like that game was being moved. Maybe it's being moved to another stadium. But, yeah, of course they have a chance. We'll see what Dwayne Haskins is made out of against one of the Big 12's best defenses. Chad Morris or Jeremy Pruitt? I don't know. That's offense versus defense. That's West versus East. If you're asking me who I would rather have an offense. That's not true. I would actually rather have a defense. But I think Chad Morris can make an impact quicker than Jeremy Pruitt can. But I believe I'm one of those defense wins championships guys. So I would rather have a defense. I'm rooting for the Eagles. Attaboy, Madden Clips 27. And what do you think about Corey Clement? I like him. I like Corey Clement. The Eagles are going to have a very interesting decision to make at the running back position this offseason because we have LeGarrette Blount on a 1-year deal. Jay Ajayi still on his rookie contract. We're good with him. We have Corey Clement, first year on his rookie contract. Donnell Pumphrey on a rookie contract. Wendell Smallwood on a rookie contract. And we'll get Darren Sproles back for 1 more year. So... 2014, Ohio State won the national championship. I don't know if that was in reference to the TCU-Ohio State discussion, but I am of the opinion that in 2014, TCU was the best team in the nation. Thoughts on Alabama losing Brian DeBall to Buffalo? I don't really have one. At this point, Alabama losing offensive coordinators is in vogue. They have... Technically, if you want to count, I forgot his name. Guy was the quarterback's coach, I think. But their new offensive coordinator, they technically have had like 4 offensive coordinators in 14 months. So, he never seemed like he fit in there. I don't think he appreciated getting yelled at. So you got to get a guy from inside the program who's used to getting yelled at to be the offensive coordinator to be okay with being yelled at. Do you think Tua is all hype, or is he the real deal? He's the real deal. To be a true freshman who didn't have a single meaningful snap all season long, be put in at halftime of the national championship game when you're down by 2 touchdowns, and come back to win, he has steel in his veins. He has to make better decisions, which he's going to. He barely played last year. But he has everything that he needs. He probably needs to put on a little bit more weight, a little bit more muscle, but he has everything you need in order to be a multiple national championship quarterback. Dark horse in the Big 12. I almost want to say Iowa State, but I feel like that doesn't technically count anymore. Yeah. Iowa State's the first thing that keeps popping up in my head. I feel like they're not really... I feel like that's cheating because I feel like they're not dark horses. They beat TCU and Oklahoma this year. But I'll still go with Iowa State because there's going to be a lot of people in the offseason that's going to say, well, can Iowa State keep it up? There's no way Iowa State can repeat it. And I'm like, well, Matt Campbell's still there. Will the Bob Stoops happen again this year? I have no idea. There's no way to predict that. If you would have asked Lincoln Riley the day before he became Oklahoma's head coach, Lincoln Riley would have said no. So there's no real way to predict that. Do you think Nick Saban will retire if he wins next year's championship? No. There's been a lot of sources that says that he really, including Bruce Arians a couple weeks ago, who said that he really covets the New York Giants job. That's the job he wants, is the New York Giants. Well, it was free. Vikings offensive coordinator just took that today, so it's not free anymore. So there's a part of me that feels like a job like that may be the only way he would leave, but I'm not worried about him retiring. I mean, did you see Nick Saban yelling in overtime in the national championship game? He ain't retiring anytime soon. I give it at least 5 more years. My worry as an Alabama grad is that he's going to leave for another. I don't think it's going to be another program. I think it's going to be the NFL if he leaves. But I don't know. So if he wins again next year, he'll probably just be right back in Tuscaloosa in 2019. Could Drew Lock improve or disimprove this season? Disimprove. I think he's only going to get better. I think he came along, especially the second half of the season. Who in the world had Missouri going bowling after like week 3 or 4? But Tua won the Elite 11 2 years ago and would have transferred if he had not played in the championship game, most likely. There's a chance, especially if they're really if offensive coordinator and Saban really were battling it out about putting him in the game, and Tua was aware of those conversations. Yeah, I probably would too. What about UNC Charlotte next year? Just keep plugging along, Niners. You'll become a real program soon. I actually do believe that UNC Charlotte, I don't think they're going to do like a UAB kind of a turnaround, but Charlotte is a great city. I've been to that campus. It's a really pretty campus. I haven't been in that stadium yet, but Jerry Richardson Stadium, I think, but all of the photos I've seen are beautiful. So, it'll take a little while. They were nothing, and now they're something. So it's going to take a little bit more time, but next year, I don't know. I want to see them in a bowl game. It's about time for a 49ers bowl game. Do you think the Big 12 will be disbanded in 10 years? I was 7 years old when the Big 12 formed, so I don't even really remember the Big 8 or the Southwest Conference. So I only know the Big 12. So that bias in me of only knowing the Big 12 as a thing is going to make me tell you no, that they'll still be around. But all it takes is Oklahoma being like, screw this, we're going to the SEC. We, assuming mean also Oklahoma State. And I think that's it for the Big 12. But my bias is going to say, no, they'll still be around. We have 95 people watching right now, which is extraordinarily cool. If you're enjoying the live stream, make sure to hit the thumbs up down there so I know that you are enjoying it. If you are a first-time viewer of the channel and you enjoy college football content, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you can remember to keep coming back. What if Jalen Hurts played the second half of the national championship? Then Georgia beats Alabama, 27-0. They shut Alabama out in the national championship. And we spend the entire offseason asking if Alabama's done, if Nick Saban's too old, if it's past their prime, if the empire's fallen. And instead we go, oh, wow, he just reloaded. That's nuts. That's nuts. Alabama may have overcome more than any other national championship team that I can remember as far as injuries. I know that they have all these 5 stars, but to be able to replace the entire linebacking core twice, it's crazy. How can Tennessee beat Alabama next year, or could they? Right now, I'm going to say no. The game is in Knoxville, so that helps. You have a defensive coordinator who just worked for Nick Saban. That helps. But he didn't really scheme against Tua, who's probably going to be the starting quarterback, I would assume. And he's going to need time to recruit from a team that just went 0-8 in the SEC. So, although Tennessee had the talent, they just gave up. Thoughts on what you think of Will Grier? I really like Will Grier. I think if Will Grier had stayed at Florida, then Dan Mullen still at Mississippi State. Nothing's changed in Florida. Florida probably wins the East again this year. I think Will Grier was the capstone, the centerpiece of that entire team. And once he was gone, Florida had nothing. No bullet in the chamber to replace him. Alabama versus Oregon has to happen. I agree, Max. It's been way too long. Not way too long. They've never played, I don't think. But they should have played sometime between 2010 and 2014. That was really the time they should have played. Tennessee will not be Bama in another 10 years. I disagree. All streaks have to come to an end, and Tennessee recruits way too much for that not to happen in a fluky way some way. I mean, they've had chances over the years. 2009 National Championship, they had 2 field goals blocked by Terrence Cody. 2016, 1914 was the final, I believe. Tennessee was the better team in that game. Alabama had to play from behind. I think Scarborough got a touchdown with 2016, so it wasn't Derrick Henry. I think Scarborough got a touchdown with 2 minutes left or something to win. Who will have a better record in 2018, Iowa or Iowa State? I'm probably going to say Iowa. Obviously, the winner of that game would matter a lot. It would go a long way. And if I'm not mistaken, that game is in Iowa City next year. I think that's right. Oh, it's pulling up basketball. No. But yeah, I think Iowa State, considering they have to play everybody in the Big 12, while Iowa just has to play everybody in the Big 10 West, and then a couple of crossover teams, I think Iowa probably will end up doing better. Chat keeps going away. Is Baker Mayfield going to be a bust? I don't know, because the term bust implies he's going to be a really top-rated draft pick. I don't know. I think he is the person I'm most curious to see how he does in the draft, where he goes, how high he goes, because he has the talent to be a first-round pick. He has the size and the temperament to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. So we will see. I assume he's probably, depending on what teams need, if they need a quarterback, I would probably say an early 2nd round pick, just based on, what I can surmise about the draft right now. But a bust, he has everything you want, except you wish he was a little taller, and you wish he was a little bit more level-headed. The NFL is like a magnifying glass. However, whoever you are, it makes it bigger. So, if somebody like the Jets or the Browns or somebody taps him to be the guy for the program, for the franchise, it may not be the best. I think his best course of action is to get drafted by a team with a really good quarterback going kind of on the downhill with 2 or 3 years left, and let him develop just a little bit. So I think he can do very well in the NFL. We'll see how it goes. Eagles versus Pats, who will win? By the way, I'm a Patriots fan from Philadelphia. Oh, you better be in hiding for the next 2 weeks. I think, obviously, you have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. You're going to have Brady's hand is still going to be a thing, even though it didn't matter in the Jacksonville game. You're going to have the Brady, Kraft, Belichick, rumor triangle, they kind of hate each other thing. That's going to be played up. You're going to have Brady going for a 6th ring, which is nuts. You're going to have the Eagles going for their very first with a backup quarterback. At the end of the day, I see Nick Foles versus Tom Brady, and I have to go Tom Brady. But the spread right now, I think, is 6 points for the Pats. I would take the Eagles to cover. I think it's going to be a close game, and the best defense in that game is Philly's. So if they can get pressure on Brady all game long, we know Edelman's going to be out. If they can find a way to cover Gronk, who I can't imagine missing the game, concussion or not, then they definitely have a chance. And if Nick Foles plays half of what he played like last night, I will be a very happy boy. I'll tell you that much. But I do think Patriots are probably going to win. Will Florida State rebound or will they struggle again? Until they get an offensive line, they're going to struggle. We'll have to see what they do with the rest of signing day, which is in a little over 2 weeks. Maybe 3. About 2.5 weeks, I think. But we'll have to see how they do in signing day. But I think Willie Taggart can turn things around. It almost feels like, especially with Jimbo leaving, that Jimbo just got ground up in the system or something in Tallahassee. So maybe that was part of it too. What are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts possibly becoming a running back? I've talked about that a little bit in the stream. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst idea I've ever heard. He needs to get touches somehow. If you want to bring him in for 10 Wildcat plays a game, I think that's perfectly fine. If you want to put him in for a series or 2 a game or a half, I'm fine with that too. But being a dedicated running back, I don't know if he'd be okay with that. I mean, I don't know him, so I don't really know. Ohio State versus Alabama and the horseshoe has to happen. That's never going to happen. As long as Nick Saban is there, Alabama's schedule is set up perfect. They are going to play one big-time non-conference Power 5 opponent in a neutral site field. It's Louisville. They opened up as 30-point favorites this week. But, hey, what are you going to do? Then it's Duke. Okay. I don't know why that's a thing, but okay. But for the most part, they're going to open up against a Power 5 opponent in a neutral site location. They're going to play 2 home games against a Sun Belt team and a Mountain West team or a CUSA team or a MAC team. And then right before Auburn, they're going to play an FCS team. So that's what that's going to be. They are not traveling to Ohio State. I would love to see a home-and-home with Ohio State. I would love to see a home-and-home with Oklahoma. They did that about 15 years ago. I'd love to see a home-and-home with Notre Dame, Texas, USC, any of those. But it's not going to happen. Do you think that if Nick Fitzgerald stays healthy, that Mississippi State could be a potential threat in the SEC? I do. We'll have to see what he does without Dan Mullen, but I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the conference next year. When will you make early college football predictions? I just saw that a second ago. Later this week. Finishing up 2017 this week. The largest margin in a Belichick Super Bowl is 6 points last year. The Eagles are going to cover that spread. Yeah, I think so too. Do I think that Georgia will be back in the SEC championship this year? I do, Kenneth. I think the East is theirs to lose again. Because you have Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Okay, that's great. They're good for one upset a year. You have South Carolina. I don't believe in Will Muschamp at all. Until maybe if they got some kind of a just fantastic quarterback. I don't believe in Jake Bentley. He's not going to lead them to the promised land. That defense is really good, but we'll see. Tennessee has to rebuild. Then, of course, I said that really southern. Did you hear that? Tennessee has to rebuild. Maybe I didn't say it. I don't know. And then you have Georgia, which is Everything is set up for them to kind of be the Alabama of the East for the next little bit. Missouri's going to be the wild card with Drew Lock. Can Northwestern go to a medium bowl game next year? I don't know what medium bowl game means. Because I kind of think of the lower bowl games as kind of the group of 5 versus group of 5 bowl games. So I would say that Northwestern went to a medium bowl game this year. In which case, yeah, absolutely. But I'm pretty sure if you're a Northwestern fan, Max, you want them to go to a really good bowl game, no? Yesterday, Jalen Hurts cut his dreadlocks. Yeah, I saw that. He looked weird. He looked really weird. My mom keeps saying he looks like Shamir Moore. And without dreadlocks, he even looks more like him. I subscribed to you when you had 300 subs. Hey, thanks, Madden Clips 27. If it's a 6-team playoff next year, who's in? Oh, I don't know. I can tell you my I don't like dealing with 16 playoff because, I mean, it's not going to happen. Sorry to be a buzzkill. But my way too early playoff prediction, I said it in the last live stream. I think my playoff prediction is, it changes. I mean, it changes all the time. But right now we'll say Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and we'll do Washington just for fun. But it changes all the time. That was different than the last live stream. Hello, I have a question. What is your favorite place to get chicken nuggets? Chick-fil-A. It's like the only fast food restaurant I ever eat. Can you start these streams earlier? Yeah, Drew, I'm going to try in the next week or two to figure out a way to do that. 9:15 right now is about the earliest I can do it, unfortunately. But I'm going to try to do it a little earlier. I know it's like if you're on the West Coast, it's perfectly fine. But right now it's like 10:15. If you got school or work in the morning, that's kind of late. I saw one question I wanted. Hello, Harry Plaz. Saw one. I can't find it now, but it was, can you talk about Clemson's defensive line? Clemson getting that defensive line back is about the biggest steal I've ever seen in college football. It's going to be, I don't know how Clemson doesn't start the season number 1 in the country. That's arguably the best defense in football. I think Wisconsin officially finished as the number 1 defense. Alabama was in there. But Clemson's defense is going to be the best defense in the country next year. And they're bringing in 2 5-star defensive line recruits, I think. So they're just going to add. And then those guys get to learn from Christian Wilkins and Farrell. And it's going to be nuts. So I think I saw another question about, Trevor Lawrence or Kelly Bryant. Yeah, do you think Clemson should start? That was Dylan Flores. I don't know. You never know who they should start. If they should start Trevor Lawrence, who's probably going to be the better passer over Kelly Bryant's, but Bryant knows the offense better. So that'll be up for the 2 offensive coordinators and Dabo to figure out. But whoever it is, they're going to be fine because you have the defense to back you up. Does FAU give Oklahoma a run for their money in the opener? I'm going to tell you right now, it could change. My answer to that is no. And the reason I'm going to say that, not that FAU is not capable, but everyone in the world is going to be watching that game to see if FAU can do it. They're going to be the hot, trendy pick to beat Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is not overlooking them. Oklahoma is not going to be surprised by them. They had the entire season to build up to that game. And FAU put a lot of tape out this year of what they can do Oklahoma's missing. They're going to be missing their quarterback. So the tape advantage is going to be Oklahoma. It's in Norman. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it's going to be, I'm going to be pulling for FAU in that game. I'm not going to lie to you. It'd be fun to see Lane Kiffin do some upsetting in week 1, do a little chaos at the beginning of the year. But I don't think right now, just the way that the odds are stacked against them. Hey, thanks, Will Bone. Will Bone. I appreciate it. Thoughts on LSU Miami? Man, it just disappeared again. Week 1. That's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. But Georgia, of course, Mark Richt, rather, is no stranger to LSU, coaching against them several times. One time in the SEC championship game in 2011. But yeah, that'll be a really fun game. Is that game in Houston? I can't remember. Does Ohio State go 12+ wins with Haskins? I don't know. You're basically asking if they go undefeated in the regular season. Maybe lose one game. I based on what he did in the Michigan game, I think he did very well. I think he did. Sorry, I had to, don't promote your stuff in my live stream. But he did very well in the Michigan game. So I think with an off season, he's just going to keep doing better. Undefeated is, I will never say a team's going to go undefeated. It doesn't happen very often. Brown signed Todd Haley for offensive coordinator. I saw that. Any thoughts? Yeah, I think it's good. You got to try. You got to do something. The offense was atrocious at times for the Browns this year. We will see what they do. Here's a weird question. Have you seen Alabama's tennis courts when you were in school at UA? Drew, I did not. I didn't realize until the end of my senior year that I was like, oh, I didn't see like certain sports at the school. So I never went to a tennis match. I never went to a swimming and diving meet. It was like one or two other. I never went to golf, but I don't know if those count because they were never on campus. We had like a club hockey team, but they only played in Huntsville, so that doesn't count. But no, I never did see the tennis courts. Poor Jimbo joined another team, still can't escape Clemson. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he gets to go back to Clemson in 2019. In your opinion, what should be the criteria for the playoffs? I don't really have criteria. Because sometimes I think conference championships, you should have to have one. Sometimes I don't. If the 2011 is a perfect example. If the two best teams in the country are in the same division, what are you supposed to do? I would prefer... I kind of feel like how I feel like the committee feels. I said that word a lot. But you want a conference champion. You want the best four teams. You hopefully want them all to be undefeated or have one loss. It doesn't always happen that way. So I do think it should be something year to year. I don't think it should be you have to have this criteria to get in. I think we should go to 8 teams. I've been saying that since like 2000 when I was like 11 years old. I was like, why are we going to 8 teams? This is stupid. So who'd win 2006 Boise or this year's UCF? That is a video, my friend. I have it written down in my book. It'll be a fun game. Miami is better than LSU. We will see. LSU and Miami both kind of did like some ebbs and flows last year. There were times where, LSU came back to beat Auburn. LSU lost to Troy. So, Miami lost to Pitt, played lifeless against Clemson, but stomped Notre Dame in the ground. So, they both kind of did ups and downs last year. It's at AT&T Stadium. Okay, so it's in Dallas. Okay. Hey, Queenslayer 64. My favorite NFL team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, subbed with like 3 weeks left in the season. Hey, thanks, Justin. My question is, which team from the state of North Carolina be the worst? Which FBS team from North Carolina was the worst? Well, last year was North Carolina. Historically, it's probably Duke. This upcoming year, it'll probably... I don't know what North Carolina's going to do in 2018. I would have never thought they would have gone 3-9 last year. But it'll probably either be North Carolina... It'll probably be North Carolina again. Duke, Wake Forest, and NC State all looked really... Wake Forest and NC State at different times looked really good. Duke and App State were stable. Did I see a gymnastics meet at UA? Yeah, I saw a lot of gymnastics. I don't think I missed a gymnastics meet. My girlfriend, my freshman year, drugged me to one. And I was like, this is going to be really dumb. And they were freaking awesome. They were absolutely awesome. I went to every single one I could. Will JT Barrett get drafted? He'll get drafted. Full disclosure, I did not watch the All-Star game this weekend, East-West game. I did not watch it. I did read up on it, and apparently JT Barrett played like doo-doo. But he's going to get drafted because of his standing in Big Ten history and his leadership and all of that stuff. JT Barrett probably will not get drafted with a chance to be the starter on the team, but he will get drafted to be the number 2 quarterback on a team, is my guess. Thoughts on the Miss State Louisiana Tech fumble this year? Yeah, it was nuts. 3rd and 93. 3rd and goal from the other 7. Jimbo will shock the college football world and the SEC world by beating Clemson. That would be certainly a statement win, and it would probably be the headline for week 1 if I did. Did you know that there are 5 Stanford alumni that will play in the Super Bowl? Can you name them? Nope. I know Zach Ertz, my boy. Are you hyped about the Super Bowl? I am very hyped about the Super Bowl. Can you believe Duke played in the ACC Championship a few years ago? Yeah, I can. 1, I remember it. And 2, David Cutcliffe has had, for the most part, really good teams there. I drove down to Atlanta to be at the Texas A&M Duke Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl a few years ago, which was a great game. Duke had a huge lead, and Johnny Manziel in his last game came back to win 52-48. But no, Duke has had some really good teams over the year. None of them were great, and I never believed for 1 second that Duke was going to win that game. But there was, you never know. But yeah, they got beat down. I think the final score was like 48-3. What year was that? 2014? I think it was 2014. It was not 2014. 2013, 45-7. Yeah. They got that 7 points, though, right? Hey, a super chat. Kenneth Zamora. Cleveland Clowns demoted to Arena League. No, I say keep them at the NFL. They're fun. They're fun. They're everybody's underdog, right? I think they're fun. But thank you for the $2. I really, really do appreciate it. This chat keeps resetting. Denver Nuggets could beat the Browns. Oh, poor Browns. What do you think about a Nebraska alumni being in the Super Bowl for 26 straight years? That's crazy. Someone said that, maybe it was you, AJ, in the last live stream, or a comment on a video or something. Because I remember that streak, something like that a couple years ago. I remember hearing about it. But that's nuts. Because that just speaks to the level of players that Nebraska has put out year in and year out, regardless of the coach or the scheme or the conference they were in. The Saints should have been in that NFC Championship game. It would have been a better game. Yeah, I think the Saints were the better team. I thought they were better than Minnesota. But, can't mess with a miracle, I guess. It would have been a better game. Yeah, I'm really glad they weren't there. I said, my brother started getting really mad at me from like week 3 of the season, week 4. It was pretty clear we were a really good team. The Chiefs lost, the Chiefs lost notwithstanding. By about week 3, 4, 5, I started seeing us as probably the East champs. And I started telling my brother, I was like, Dylan, the Saints are going to beat the Eagles in the playoffs. The Saints are going to beat every week we'd watch football. I was like, the Saints are going to beat the Eagles in the playoffs. He was like, shut up. No, they're not. And then right there at the end of the game against Minnesota, the Saints kick a field goal to go up by 1. I was like, see, I'm telling you, it was destiny. They're going to beat the Eagles. So I'm really glad they weren't there. I don't know if they would have beaten the Eagles if they showed up, but that offense scared me a lot more than the Vikings offense did. Kenneth with $2 more. I do appreciate it. I know $2 doesn't seem like a lot, but I really, really do appreciate it. Even if the text is being drafted by the Browns at death penalty. I can guarantee you it feels like it. There's a reason that Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen were reluctant to declare for the draft really early. They don't want to go there. But no, it's not a death sentence. In fact, if you were an optimist, you could flip that on your head and go, if I can get the Browns to the playoffs, I'm a god. I'm a god in this city. They'll build statues. People will have little pictures of me hanging above their kids' cribs if I can get the Browns to the playoffs. So, depends on how you want to look at it, I guess. Trent Stewart with the $5. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Alabama's only 8 plays away from winning or playing for every natty 2008 to present. Should be a video. I agree. Take little screenshots. 8 plays away. Let's go through them real quick. So, 8 plays away. 2008, lost in the SEC Championship. Say Javier Arenas picks off Tim Tebow on the last touchdown pass. And Alabama drives down the field and scores. 2008, they're in the SEC, or that was the SEC Championship. They're in the BCS Championship in Miami. 2009, they won the title. 2010, they lost 3 games. They should have beaten Auburn. They had some chances against an LSU team that could not move the ball. I'm pretty sure Jordan Jefferson threw a touchdown in the game against Alabama. It was his first touchdown since the opening game against North Carolina. And then that just embarrassing loss at South Carolina. 2011, they won it. 2012, they won it. 2013 was the kick 6. 2014, they lost by a touchdown to Ezekiel Elliott and Cardell Jones. 2015, they won it. 2016, a 1-second pass from Deshaun Watson to Hunter Renfrow. That's how close we are to a decade of just pure Alabama championships. Pretty nuts. If you lead the Browns to a Super Bowl, you're a guaranteed Hall of Famer. I agree. Thoughts on Dan Mullen and Florida? Only a matter of time. Only a matter of time until Florida is SEC champions, in my opinion. And I said this last week too, what he did in Mississippi State is one of the greatest coaching jobs of all time. Of all time. There's a chance, unless you live in Mississippi or Alabama, or you're a Miss State fan, you didn't know anything about Mississippi State 10 years ago. Nothing. Sylvester Croom beat Alabama in 2007. That's the last time they mattered until Dan Mullen got there and straightened that program out. He made Dak Prescott a household name even before he went to the Cowboys. And Mississippi State, the very first team ever ranked number 1 in the College Ball Playoff Top 25 poll. That was Dan Mullen. That was in Mississippi State. What is he going to do at Florida? Just throwing it out there. He has a long time ahead of him. How old is Dan Mullen? Dan Mullen is 45 years old. He is 24 years younger than Nick Saban. He has a lot of time at Florida. Just don't expect anything until year 2 or 3. Thoughts on, or how do you think Kyler Murray is going to do? And he looked perfectly fine in that opening drive when Baker had to sit out. I think he'll do just fine. It's going to be a different offense. You're going to see a lot more running, but it's good. Was Scott Frost better than Tom Brady in college? I don't know. I'd have to look that up. I don't know Scott Frost's stats off the top of my head. I feel like he ran the ball a lot because he was on Tom Osborne's Nebraska teams, so he would have been an option quarterback, right? I've seen footage of him in college, but I don't know his actual stats. But Tom Brady wasn't. Tom Brady in college was like fine. He was a good quarterback. He beat Alabama in the Orange Bowl. I mean, he had some good moments, but nobody in the world would have predicted what happened. Tom Brady, no matter what you think about him, he is one of the greatest success stories in sports history. Like, what was he, the 100th pick? Or 199? I mean, nobody ever thought dude was going to go to 8 Super Bowls. Are you kidding? Even if he goes 5-3 in Super Bowls. It's nuts. All it does is say he can't beat the NFC East when it matters. But, greatest quarterback of all time. So I don't know the actual stats. I'd have to look at that. That is interesting, though. Thoughts on Luke Fickell as a head coach? So this year didn't go great for Cincinnati, but I still think he still needs a little bit of time. I still like that he's a head coach. I still think he's probably going to do okay. Is Cincinnati in the East or the West? In the American. But yeah, he still needs a little bit of time. But we'll see in 2 or 3 years how he actually is done. Will the Atlantic Division be between North Carolina State and Clemson? There's a chance. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Louisville and Florida State do if they can bounce back. And Dungy's gone, but Syracuse is building something. Syracuse is going to be something. Dan Mullen or Dabo? I mean, I have to take Dabo. What Dan Mullen did at Mississippi State is what Dabo did at Clemson. Because when Dabo took over Clemson, the whole Clemsoning term was in full effect. Tommy Bowden had completely lost the entire locker room. Dabo had a losing season in his second full year, and no one expected Dabo to do what he did. So, because of the national championship, because I do believe there probably was a ceiling on Mississippi State that Clemson doesn't really have, but I still have to take Dabo. Can an AAC team make the playoffs? Yes, but not in 1 year. And what I mean by that is if Scott Frost had stayed at UCF and they went 12 or 13-0 again next year, they would be in the playoffs. You can't hold them out. If Houston had not lost to SMU and Navy in 2016, they would have been in the playoffs based on their strong 2015 where they won the Peach Bowl. Unfortunately, you can't do it in 1 year. You have to prove it to the committee that you're there for the long haul, and which isn't fair, but it is what it is. Does Wake Forest have a chance on winning the ACC? No, not really. The discrepancy between them and Clemson is too far. So Wake Forest had a really, really good 2017. If you don't really follow ACC football, Wake Forest had a solid 2017. They competed against Clemson in Clemson. I was at that game. But they just can't. They're just not quite there. They beat Louisville and they upset NC State, which was a big win for Wake Forest. But no, I can't pick them to win the ACC yet. Kenneth with $2. Could the Pitt Panthers beat the Browns to a pulp? No, Kenneth. Though I appreciate the $2. No. I love how much you hate the Browns. You just despise the Browns. No, they could not beat them. The Browns would demolish Pitt. That is funny, though. I just love that he's just like, I hate the Browns. I will pay you money to read aloud how much I hate the Browns. How can Alabama beat the Browns if they play? They can't. They can't. Ohio State versus Michigan is a bad rivalry. Nope. For the record, I've never been to either state, so I've never seen either team play live. I've certainly never been a part of that rivalry, but just watching it on TV and talking to people who are fans of those teams, no. It is... A lot of rivalries in college football are between teams in the same state. So having entire states hate each other, like one of my old managers at one of my last job, she's from Michigan, and she was up there for Thanksgiving and had to drive back to South Carolina. So she had to drive through Ohio. And she made sure to get gas and everything because she had to drive through Ohio on rivalry weekend. She was like, we're not stopping in Ohio. When you're afraid to drive through an entire state, I think it's a pretty good rivalry. Trying to multitask, playing NCAA football and listening to your live stream, but your thoughts on the 2018 Michigan State team. If you saw my top 10 most overachieving teams or most surprising teams, I talked about Michigan State in that. I think Michigan State going into 2018 is exactly how I felt about them going into 2017. Complete and total wild card. They have to travel to Michigan, which is not going to be easy. Wait. Yeah, I think they go to Michigan. Now I'm doubting myself. I feel like the 2015 game was at Michigan, but I feel like the 2017 game was at Michigan State. I don't know. But they, the East, the Big Ten East is probably the toughest division in football. So we will see. If you had to guess, where would you say Baker Mayfield goes in the draft? I said a little earlier, I would assume early second round. That's based on nothing. Isn't Eric Dungey a junior? I thought he was a senior. If he is a junior, everybody's in trouble. Yeah, he is a junior. Wow, I don't know why I thought he was a senior. Ruh-roh. Games in Clemson, which will change things this year. Yeah, Syracuse is definitely going to make some news there. Is 2006 Duke the worst team ever in football? No. I don't know much about 2006 Duke off the top of my head, but no. There's been awful, awful teams. Northwestern lost like dozens of games in a row. How long will Florida continue their winning streak over Kentucky? Joel gets buckets. That's a cool name. No. No, I don't. Or the answer is not a yes or no. Sorry, I've read another question. How long will they continue it? For a while. I can't tell you an exact time. This was the year. This was absolutely the year. With Dan Mullen there, it is not looking good. Kenneth with $2 more, which I really do. Even though you're just paying me to say bad things about the Browns, I really appreciate it. You have no idea how much this helps the channel, especially like January, February, March. It's going to be rough as far as monetization on the channel, so I really do appreciate it. I like Brownies, hate Redskins, Kirk Cousins gone. Okay, so you don't hate the Redskins. Or, I'm sorry, you don't hate the Browns. You just hate the Redskins. Kirk Cousins is probably gone. Because he was on a franchise tag last year. I can't imagine they're going to do that again, but I don't know. The Redskins going to draft a quarterback in the draft, maybe? I don't know. Some of the names in this chat are funny. Are you a college basketball fan? Kind of, sort of. Not really. I keep up with Clemson and Alabama basketball. Alabama had a really big win, back-to-back wins over Auburn, ending their 14-game winning streak in the Mississippi State, which is actually a really big college basketball rivalry. And then Clemson had a really big victory over Notre Dame after falling to 0-59 at North Carolina. Ugh. But I get into it in March Madness time, like the rest of the country. My chat is broke. Does Georgia Tech have a chance at winning the Coastal? I like Marshall. I was really, not the team, the player. I was really disappointed in how Georgia Tech went down the stretch. With Miami stepping up and Virginia Tech being there, it's going to be tough. I don't assume Pitt is always going to be as bad as they were last year, and even then they upset number 2 Miami. So it's tough. Georgia Tech has a very underrated, nationally loud stadium. Georgia Tech Stadium, like if you've never been to a college game at Georgia Tech, you should go. It's a beautiful view of the city of Atlanta. Grant Field is just Bobby Dodd Stadium. It's gorgeous. I really, really enjoy going to games there. I may go to the Georgia Tech Clemson game there. I think they're playing there again this year. Yeah. So I may go to that game. We'll see. But do they have a chance of winning the Coastal? They have a chance because Georgia Tech kind of bounces back and forth year to year, but I would probably pick them at about 4th. I don't know. Virginia is going to be on the rise too. Maybe 5th in the division. Duke was 0-12 and lost to FCS Richmond. Didn't Richmond win the national championship that year, though? I'm sorry. I know the screen is shaking. No, they did win the CAA. They were co-champs. Oh, yeah. No, they didn't win the national championship at all. I'm tripping. All right. Whatever. Hey, Trent Stewart with $5 more. Thanks, man. Michigan gets Notre Dame, Nebraska, at Michigan State, Wisconsin, at Ohio State, Penn State in 2018. Minimum 4 losses, Harbaugh farewell tour. First off, thank you for $5 more. That is incredibly generous, and I really, really appreciate it. Notre Dame, Nebraska, which, it's not going to be really Scott Frost's Nebraska just yet. And that game's at home. Notre Dame game's at home, I believe, to start the season. At Michigan State. I could have sworn that game was at Michigan State this past year. Wisconsin, at Ohio State, Penn State. That's tough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's only half their schedule. You get the Marylands and Rutgers in there too, but Harbaugh farewell tour. Yeah, I said earlier in the chat, he's on the hot seat. I think he is firmly on the hot seat. And I said earlier, pondered earlier, he may just walk away from Michigan rather than being fired. It's going to be tough to fire him. If he goes 9-4 with a bowl game, whether he goes 8-4 or 9-3, bowl game makes him go 9-4. That's not what they hired him for. Even if he goes 10-3, say he goes 9-3 in the regular season, he wins half those games. Say he beats Notre Dame and Nebraska and Michigan State, loses to Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State. 9-3 is not what he is the head coach of Michigan for, especially when Ohio State's flirting with the playoff every single year and just came off a Big Ten championship. They're second in 4 years. He's not there to look up at Ohio State on the mountain. I can't imagine they would fire him next year, but I don't want to say he's a coward. I feel like that's what I'm saying when I say he may leave. But there's a decent chance that if an NFL team comes calling, he may take that risk. But thank you for the $5. For real, for real. What happened to Colorado? Jim Levy left. Defensive coordinator left. They got a couple of draft picks after the 2016 season. That is probably... Bama schedules Chattanooga, who's typically good. Okay, sure. Yeah. Chattanooga actually had an invite to join the Sun Belt with Georgia Southern and App State and chose not to move from the Southern. But I don't know if you're talking to somebody else in the chat. Chattanooga does not boost Alabama's schedule. That's what you were implying. I just want you to answer my question. Gotcha. James Madison moves to CUSA, you think, too? No, I don't think James Madison is going to move up. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but if they do, I would probably guess, depending again on what Liberty does, it would probably be to the Sun Belt. The CUSA already has 14 teams. I don't know if they want to go to 16. Do you think the Big Ten will be disbanded in 10 years? No. I think you were the same, Krista. I think you were the same person asked about the Big 12. No, the Big Ten is perfect. Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, and SEC are forever. They're never going away. The Big 12 is the only conference that might kind of, but I still think they'll be around. Should the Power 5 conferences follow the Big Ten scheduling model of 9 conference games and no FCS team, says Bojangles17 Fedman? I'm torn. Because, personally, 9 games is a given. Every single team should play 9 conference games. What I'm questioning, and the only SEC coach I've actually heard championing that year after year is, surprisingly, Nick Saban. The no FCS team... Me, Dustin, college football fan, I don't want to ever see another FCS team on my TV other than in the playoffs or a very high-profile FCS team. I'm just being real with you. I don't want to see Alabama play Chattanooga. I don't. I don't want to see Savannah State play Oklahoma State. Sorry. But I also recognize that Mercer playing Auburn and Alabama gets their entire budget for the year. I've watched what Furman and Wofford do when they play South Carolina and Clemson and Michigan State. It helps them a lot. So I also don't want to completely disband that and kind of start to kill off some of these FCS teams that can't really afford it. They're like on the edge of not being able to afford it. Then the capitalist in me says, well, if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Shut it down. But you've already built all these stadiums. So I would say you can't schedule an FCS team. You can only do it once every 3 years, something like that. So if you want to schedule Furman this year, go ahead, but you can't schedule another team until 2021 or whatever. Maybe that's a way to do it, but I do think it waters down the competition. And, people will talk about it. Well, it gives the players a week to kind of rest some of their higher-ups. That's not what football is. Like that doesn't impress me. I don't care about them resting the players. As a player, I would understand it, and give valuable reps for the backup guys, but that's not. If I'm league commissioner, that my job is not to get you to rest players. If I was going to do that, then I would let you schedule 3 FCS teams and let that be your entire non-conference schedule. 75 people watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you're enjoying the stream, make sure to give it a big thumbs up or a thumbs down. I don't really care. Those are viewed equally by YouTube. So if you hate it, give it a thumbs down. That actually helps me out too. If you are new to the channel and just finding the live stream and you enjoy college football, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I'll be putting videos out every single day over the next week at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that is... a little pitch I just noticed. Where are you on the political spectrum? I'm not getting into that on this channel. No offense. This is not a place for politics. I do believe in capitalism to a degree, though. I will say that. Some programs feel obligated to help FCS teams fund their programs. Yeah, I do understand that. One thing that Alabama does not do, that Clemson does, that really makes me angry at Alabama sometimes, they just will not schedule an FCS team in-state. Alabama won't schedule anybody other than Auburn in-state. Alabama, if you look at all of their FCS teams that they play, it's always Mercer or Chattanooga. It's really just usually Chattanooga. They play them a lot. It's never Alabama State. It's never any team in state. I really like it when you see, Sam Houston State going to Texas. I like that. Clemson and South Carolina both do a great job. Back when Coastal was FCS, they scheduled them. They schedule Presbyterian. They schedule Furman. They schedule Wofford. They do a really good job of that, and I like that they're helping out the local schools too. So I'm not. Alabama has never played UAB, which is their own school. They've never played Troy. They've never played South Alabama. Help out teams in your state, man. But I am sympathetic to helping out local teams. Would you rather have a pocket passer or a dual threat if you're the head coach? Whenever I played NCAA 14, the latest one anyway, whenever I played the NCAA games, I always had a dual threat quarterback. I loved running with the quarterback. So I always had dual threat. You always want a guy who can get out of danger. Luke Falk just looks at people when he's getting hit. Tom Brady, for the most part, just looks at people right before he takes a hit. You want to have somebody. I mean, they don't even have to be the most. They don't have to be some guy who runs for 100 yards a game. Look at Carson Wentz, my boy, Carson Wentz. He can get out of the pocket. He's not really a dual threat, but he can run for 20 yards if he needs to. Early Super Bowl prediction for next year. If I can be completely honest with you, it's not just biased based on what just happened. It is really in the offseason. It would be my prediction: Eagles, Patriots. I think they're the two best teams in the league. Minnesota is not going to be back next year. They're going to have the number one schedule, so they're going to play the number one teams of all their other, cross-divisional opponents. They're going to be number one. Aaron Rodgers is going to be back next year. Vikings are not going to be back. Falcons, Panthers, Saints will all be battling it out all year. Yeah, I really do. I don't believe in Dallas. Pittsburgh, maybe. But Ben Roethlisberger's getting up there, too. And he's, over the years, just because of his running style, he's taken more shots than Tom has. What would you say to UCF for what they could have done differently this year? They scheduled Power 5 teams. Those teams just ended up not being great. There's nothing they could have done. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they didn't have the foresight to go, we're going to go undefeated. The only thing they could have done is try to figure out a way to reschedule that game against Georgia Tech, but it wouldn't have mattered in the long run. Oh, what was that? I saw one. Oh, do you think Oklahoma fans will finally give up on winning a national championship? No, never. How do you think Michigan's offense will do now with Shea Patterson? A lot better than they've been doing. They certainly can't do much worse offensively than what they have been the last year or two. Two questions kind of back-to-back. Can Nebraska make it to the top 5 or 10 in at least 3 years? And do you think Scott Frost will have a good year at Nebraska? Define good year. Will he have a good year at Nebraska based on Nebraska fan standards? No. Nebraska will probably go 7-6 this year. In 3 years, could he get the team in the top 10 in the nation? Yes. Yes, he can. They were number 8 a year or two ago. So it's not that hard to imagine. If they can finally get over the Wisconsin hump, they'll probably be in the Big Ten championship game. Will Royce Freeman make the NFL? Yes. I assume he will be among the first running backs taken. Lions making the Super Bowl next year. There's the spirit. Dustin, who do you think is the most delusional fan base in college football? Honest to God, right now I'd probably say Tennessee. Thinking that John Gruden would want to leave his Monday Night Football gig to come to Tennessee to be called gay on the internet by every fan on a message board. It's ridiculous. If they knew they had to pump out $100 million, maybe they would have tried to gather some funds. But I saw Tennessee, honest to God, I don't know if they were kidding or not, but I saw Tennessee fans during that coaching search say things like, do you think we could get Nick Saban? I'm choosing to think that was a joke because I can't imagine. I saw one person say, "Do you think we could get Bill Belichick?" No. No. Do you think that LSU will get a top quarterback within the next 10 years? If you're talking literally a top quarterback, like the number one quarterback in the nation, probably not unless he comes from Louisiana. Do I think they can get a really good quarterback to tip the program to the point to where they need to be, where they should be? Yeah. I'm trying to remember that guy they had like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, LSU, the fact that LSU can't get a quarterback is ridiculous. Did you know that from 2005 to 2007, Cal produced Marshawn Lynch, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arrington, and Alex Mack? I knew Marshawn and Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was on the cover of NCAA football. Yeah, that Cal, because I think Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback in 2003 when Cal beat number 1 USC in 3 overtimes. I don't think he finished that game. I think another quarterback came in to finish that game. So here's an interesting question. Do you think the college football season should be extended to 14 or 16 games? No. I like 12. So right now, if you play in a conference championship game and go to a bowl game, that's already 14. If you're in the playoff, that's already 16 if you make the finals, assuming you make a conference championship game. So you already have your 14 to 16 right there. I think 12 is the perfect amount of games. I think the scheduling needs to be changed within that 12. Excuse me, but I'm not in favor of actually extending it. What are your favorite college and NFL teams? I grew up a Clemson Tigers fan and then went to Alabama and graduated from Tuscaloosa. And my favorite NFL team since the day I first saw a television with the NFL team on it has been the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know why. I've never even been to an Eagles home game. But I've loved the Philadelphia Eagles since I was a little kid. I was telling my dad the other day, one of my first NFL memories, I went back and looked up the date. I was 4 years old. The Eagles and Cowboys were playing on Monday Night Football, and we went to go get a Christmas tree. I was 4. This is December of 93. It's the only time they played in December, like right around that time, and on Monday. And I told my dad we had to hurry up and get back home because the Eagles and Cowboys were going to play. I was 4. So I've been an Eagles fan forever. Do I think there should be an 8-team playoff? Yes. I've wanted an 8-team playoff forever. Multiple teams played 13 regular season games in 2002. I know if you schedule Hawaii, you can play 13 games. Or at least if you travel out to Hawaii, you can play 13 games. Will Jacksonville be a top team in the AFC next year? I can't imagine they won't. I mean, they're only going to get better in the draft. The question for Jacksonville is, they got the defense, they got the running game. Do they have the quarterback? And it depends on what play you saw from Bortles. I mean, he played really well, especially against Pittsburgh. But I would not be surprised if they try to get like a Kirk Cousins or maybe somebody in the draft. Do you think Middle Tennessee State will be bowl eligible this year? If they can settle on a quarterback, I think they had a little bit of a quarterback issue this year, if I'm not mistaken, with injuries and such. But the CUSA is getting better. Are you aware of the 2004 Rose Bowl snub with Cal, with Aaron Rodgers being snubbed out by Texas and Michigan? No, I'm not. That is interesting because of the no Pac-12 team, or Pac-10 back then, being in it. But that game was a classic. Michigan won or Texas, whoever, I think it was Michigan, won on a last-second field goal. So it was a classic, but I don't know about the snubbing. Remember, Andrew Luck and Deshaun were hurt. The Jags don't sweep, they'd be 8-8. Yeah, I agree. That's true. Also, J.J. Watt. Deshaun Watson getting injured really sucked. I really hated that. So YouTube, I'm going to show it. Aaron Horikawa says Jacksonville D was exposed. And for some reason, I guess YouTube saw D and exposed and was like, nope, it hit it. That's funny. Best Super Bowl ever. I don't know. When I first read that question, the very first image I had was James Harrison running back that interception against the Cardinals. But the Rams Titans with Steve McNair throwing it to oh my god, longtime Titans wide receiver who held it out at the 1 yard line, that popped up. Just not Super Bowl 15 and not Super Bowl 39. Those are my two least favorites. Drew Bledsoe has a son playing for Washington State, and after the very tragic recent event, where will Washington State go with John Bledsoe? I didn't know that. That's interesting. Maybe he can lead them to victory in a snowy apple cup like his father did. The Broncos should get Kirk Cousins and draft Lamar Jackson. The Broncos may be interested in Case Keenum. We'll see what Minnesota does. Worst mascot in college football. Ooh. Very first image that popped in my head. Do you guys remember Western Michigan's Bronco like 2 years ago? That was the first thing that popped in my head. Worst mascot, though. Isn't Nebraska's mascot just that blow-up kid? He just bounces around. Is that the official mascot? I feel like that cannot be the official mascot. If it is, that's probably the worst one. UAB next season? They are on the path. Good young running back, good young coach. I think UAB, I said in the last video I made that they were, a late North Texas field goal away from winning the CUSA West in their first year back. So I think the Blazers are set up to do good. Are you going to any South Carolina games? Probably not. I'm gonna try to go to a Clemson home game, and I'm gonna try to go to Alabama, Tennessee, but we will see. Best Super Bowl was Seattle versus Denver. I imagine if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you would agree with that. Can this be the Super Bowl next year? Packers versus Jaguars? Sure. I mean, I don't see why not. Packers without Aaron Rodgers obviously is a different team than with Brett Hundley. And the Jags got all the way to the AFC Championship game again. Do you guys know the 4 teams that have never been in a Super Bowl? Randomly looked it up last night. Best group of 5 team next year? I have to say right now, probably FAU. Even though what I said with Oklahoma game earlier, I think that's just because they're not going to be caught off guard. But I do think FAU probably is going to be the best one next year. Worst mascot, Western Kentucky. Yeah, it's made up. It's not a real thing. It's like a drop of blood. That's what we all called it when they came to Alabama. Is UCF a playoff contender? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be like without Scott Frost. It'll be interesting to see. If they go undefeated, they'll be in the playoffs. Tide equals elephant, question mark, question mark. I have a video coming out kind of explaining that in the next few weeks also. Do I think Georgia could be the next great dynasty? I mean, I don't know. They haven't won a title yet, so we'll have to see. They got really close, and I don't think very many people expected them to get this close in year 2 under Kirby Smart, so. Super Bowl 2019, Browns and Vikings. Boy, that would be a doozy. Clemson defensive line will be a monster next year? Absolutely. No, the best Super Bowl was Dallas Cowboys and Buffalo Bills. Which year? They played 2 straight years. Do you think Patriots will get the Wyoming quarterback in the draft? I don't know. Like, with everything that's been going on with the rumors with Brady and Garoppolo, I don't know if they'll draft a quarterback. Garoppolo was it. Garoppolo was the guy. And I don't know if Belichick is going to roll the dice on a quarterback or not. I mean, if the quarterback gets to become really good, Brady's going to kick him out, into the cold somewhere. Thoughts on UNLV and Virginia Tech? Well, UNLV got beat by Howard. So I would probably say Virginia Tech win that game. Is that the opening game? For the Hokies? Oh, no, they don't even play next year. That was just a theoretical Virginia Tech win. Okay. Last, I kind of promised this in the title. In the title. Let's talk about the ACC scheduling. So, God, my nose is really itchy all of a sudden. The ACC released their schedule this past week for the 2018 season. Just kind of want to go through it and kind of give my thoughts on a couple of games. So Boston College opens up at home against UMass, Holy Cross. Those have been great regional matchups in 1920. At Wake Forest on a Thursday. At Purdue, which will be a really tough game in Jeff Brom's second year. Then they host Temple. That's a really interesting September. Then they travel to NC State, get Louisville. Open date, home game against Miami on a Friday. At Virginia Tech, Clemson, at Florida State, and Syracuse. Boston College's last 5 games are Miami, at Virginia Tech, Clemson at home, at Florida State, and Syracuse. That is tough. Moving on to Clemson. Opens at home against Furman. What I say about them scheduling FCS teams from in-state. Opens up against Furman, then travels out to Texas A&M to face Old Pal Jimbo. It'll be their first trip to Texas A&M since 2004. Then they get Georgia Southern at home. Georgia Southern coming off not a great year. Then at Georgia Tech. I'm actually surprised that's not on a Thursday. Syracuse, and then at Wake Forest. Open date, or bye week. Then NC State, at Florida State, Louisville, at Boston College, then Duke and South Carolina. Clemson only has 2 home games in a row once. Furman at A&M, Georgia Southern at Tech, Syracuse at Wake Forest, NC State at Florida State, Louisville at Boston College, and then Duke and South Carolina. Not the hardest schedule in the world. If you're a Clemson fan, you don't like NC State at Florida State and then Louisville, 3 straight, but you get it right off a bye week. You do have Texas A&M the second week of the year, which I hate. Clemson does really weird scheduling. Like they did Auburn to open the year, and then Clemson was the second game. Now A&M's the second game. I kind of like those games to be first, but maybe they want more spotlight. I don't know. Florida State opens up Labor night, at home against Virginia Tech. Then they get Samford, poor Bulldogs, at Syracuse, Northern Illinois, at Louisville, and at Miami to go into the bye week. So they get road trips to the Cardinals and to the Hurricanes, both of which beat them in 2017 going into the bye week. Coming out, they get Wake Forest and then Clemson. I'm sure they would have much rather had Clemson than Wake Forest, but they get Wake Forest, then Clemson. Then they travel to NC State, travel to Notre Dame, Boston College, and Florida. So in 3 weeks, they get Clemson at home, at NC State, and at Notre Dame. And then, of course, Florida at home to finish the season. That was not one of the best games of the year this year. We will see if either team can turn that around next year. Louisville plays Alabama in the Camping World Stadium opener in Orlando. Again, they're going to be 30-point dogs as of right now. Then they get Indiana State at home, Western Kentucky, at Virginia, Florida State, Georgia Tech at home on a Friday, and then at Boston College before they go to a bye week. Then they get Wake Forest, at Clemson, at Syracuse on a Friday, NC State, and home against Kentucky. NC State opens the season in a really tough game at home against James Madison. I would not be surprised at all if James Madison pulls that upset. They were really close to being back-to-back national champs in the FCS this year. Then they get a scrappy Georgia State team. Then West Virginia in week 3. West Virginia at NC State, and then at Marshall, Virginia, and Boston College before the bye week. They get the bye and then go to Clemson, but Clemson also has a bye before that game. Then at Syracuse, Florida State, Wake Forest on a Thursday, at Louisville, and at NC State. So their senior day will be November 8th. You get a sip of water. Syracuse opens up the season at Western Michigan, which is rare. A home game against Wagner, then Florida State, and then UConn. So theoretically, Syracuse should go at least 3-0, maybe 4-0. Florida State's at home, maybe 4-0 to open the season before traveling to Clemson and then to Pitt before they get a bye week. Then they host North Carolina, NC State coming out of the bye week, at Wake Forest, Louisville on a Friday at home, against Notre Dame, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and Yankee Stadium, and then at Boston College. Then Wake Forest travels to Tulane on Thursday to open the season. They get the Towson Tigers at home. Boston College at home on a Thursday. Notre Dame at home. Rice at home. And then Clemson at home. Wow. So Wake Forest opens up at Tulane, and then the rest of up until at Florida State in week 8 is their second road trip. But the bad part of that is it's at Florida State, at Louisville, Syracuse at home, at NC State on a Thursday, Pittsburgh, and then at Duke. So that is the way the Coastal Division looks right now as far as scheduling goes. Bama 49-7 over Louisville. Holy Cross beat Pitt. That's an old rivalry, old Northwest rivalry. My mom is the athletic director at UNLV. Is that real? Cool. Dustin, what's the loudest college stadium you've been in? It's cheating. The loudest one I've ever been in is Clemson. But I've been to Clemson for like 100 games now, so I'm not going to count that, even though that's the loudest one that I've been in against Miami in 2005. If you don't count that, Florida. I was at Florida for the first game against Alabama in 2011. Not the first game, but it was the first game I'd been to in Florida. And I was down where the Alabama players come out. I actually have like a picture, screenshot of me when the Bama players came out of the tunnel. I was like in the corner, and I remember on the second play of the game, Jeff Driscoll threw like a 75-yard touchdown pass. And I turned around and looked behind me, and my memory is there's no upper deck at Florida. It just goes up forever. And I turned around, and there was just nothing but like blue and orange movement, and that like the ground was shaking. And it's the single loudest moment I've had in a football stadium, not Clemson. Loudest stadium I've been to is the Horseshoe. Yeah, I can imagine. All right, let me do the Coastal Division real quick. Duke opens up with a much surprising first two games than I think we would have expected coming into 2017. Army at home and then at Northwestern. Both of those are much tougher. It's going to be a much different Northwestern team than the one they lost or the one they beat up pretty big at home this past year. Then at Baylor, then NCCU at home and Virginia Tech before a bye week. They come out of the bye week and travel to Atlanta for Georgia Tech. Get Virginia, at Pitt, at Miami, North Carolina, at Clemson, and Wake Forest. That's a tough little gauntlet there, depending on what North Carolina looks like. Georgia Tech opens up the season against Alcorn State. They travel to USF, assuming there's no hurricane this year, like it was against the UCF game. At Pitt, Clemson, Bowling Green. That's kind of a late game to play against a non-conference team like that. At Louisville on a Friday night. Duke, and then a late bye week before traveling to Virginia Tech on a Thursday. At North Carolina, Miami, Virginia, and finishing the season between the Hedges and Georgia. Miami opens up the season in Dallas against LSU on Sunday. So they are the Virginia Tech, West Virginia game from this past year. They'll be the Sunday game. Or UCLA, Texas A&M was on Sunday too. But Savannah State at home at Toledo. That game was a little choppy this year. Maybe they could pull away a little earlier this season. FIU, North Carolina at home on a Thursday. Florida State and at Virginia. Then they get a bye week and travel to Boston College on a Friday. Florida State lost to Boston College big on a Friday this year. Duke, at Georgia Tech, at Virginia Tech, and Pitt. North Carolina starts the season traveling all the way across the country to play at Cal, a team that beat them last year. Then come back to travel across the state to play at ECU, at East Carolina. Then they get UCF, the defending national champions, technically, to one poll. At home, then Pitt at home, at Miami on a Thursday, then a bye week. Virginia Tech, at Syracuse, at Virginia. Georgia Tech, at Duke, Western Carolina, and then NC State to finish out the season. We'll see if UNC can win 4 or 5 games. East Carolina, they should theoretically beat, but in Western Carolina, California game is going to be tough. Justin Wilcox will start his second season there, and then, of course, UCF. So really, and then Pitt, and then Miami. So really, September, you'll find out what this North Carolina team is real quick. Really, in Miami, too. LSU, Toledo, who won double digits this year. So you'll learn about those two coastal teams, kind of question marks coming into 2018. You'll learn about them real quick. As far as the Pittsburgh Panthers, they get Albany, Penn State at home, Georgia Tech at UNC, at UCF, Syracuse at Notre Dame, and a bye week. That's a tough little schedule there. Penn State, Georgia Tech, at North Carolina, at UCF, Syracuse, at Notre Dame. Then they come out of the bye week and play Duke at home, at Virginia on a Friday, Virginia Tech, at Wake Forest, and at Miami to close out the season. Virginia will play Richmond. I feel like they've played Richmond a lot over the last few years. They open the season at home against Richmond, at Indiana, Ohio, Louisville, at NC State before a bye week. Then they come out of the bye week and play Miami, at Duke, North Carolina, Pittsburgh on a Friday. The Liberty Flames at home in mid-November. New in-state rivalry, I guess. And then at Georgia Tech and then at Virginia Tech on Black Friday. And the Hokies open up the season again Labor Day night at Florida State. Take on William and Mary. East Carolina, both of those are at home. At Old Dominion, at Duke, before facing Notre Dame at home, and at UNC before a bye week, only to open up against Georgia Tech at home on a Thursday. Boston College, at Pittsburgh, Miami, and then Virginia on Black Friday. All right, going to take care of that guy. All right. So that is the ACC Coastal Division scheduling. Big Ten equals 14 teams. Yeah, nothing makes sense. Nobody cares anymore. I did ban that Chris guy. No, don't worry. He took advantage of me looking at another screen for a second. By Robert Trey 210. Miami LSU will be the Cowboys' kickoff game. Swamp is an amazing atmosphere. Yeah, it really was. It really makes me sad when, the last few years that they just haven't been anything, really. You watch some of the games, there's a lot of empty seats, because I know what it can be when the crowd's really into it. The renewal of the Boston College Holy Cross football game was the first since 1983. The series is famous in the Northeast, especially for the 42 game when Holy Cross upset the undefeated Boston College team 55-12, which caused them to cancel their season and party. The hotel burned down that night, killing 492. Is that real? Is that a real story? I've never heard that. Oh, Coconut Grove Fire. I've heard Coconut Grove Fire. Premier nightclub during the post-Prohibition 1930s and 40s in Boston. On November 28, 1942, it was the scene of the deadliest nightclub fire in history, killing 492, which was more than 32 than the building's authorized capacity and injuring hundreds more. The scale of the tragedy shocked the nation and briefly replaced the events of World War II in newspaper headlines. Holy poop. Huh. Well, how about that? Today I learned. That's really cool. Thank you, Platypathetic the Platypus. I doubt I said that right. But thank you. That's really cool. Not cool. I mean, a lot of people died, but it's interesting. That's the word. It's interesting. Dustin, will Pitt have another upset against the top 10 team like last year? They'll have chances. They'll play Virginia Tech. They'll play Penn State, so they'll have chances. Best Super Bowl moment, Saints offsides kick at half. Yeah, it's up there. I was actually talking to my brother about that yesterday. Obviously, again, I already said it, so it's still in my head. But James Harrison's 100-yard interception return, Antonio Brown's touchdown catch in that game, the helmet catch from David Tyree, Adam Vinatieri hitting those field goals. What are some other ones that stand out? The Falcons blowing a 28-3 lead. Hashtag never forget. You remember, was it Ahmad Bradshaw that took a knee at the 1-yard line in the Giants' upset of the Patriots? I remember that too. All right, well, we are right at 2 hours. So I'm going to close it down here whenever I can get to the screen. Thank you guys so much for watching. At the end of this, there's 60 people watching. At the most, I think we had 87 or something. So that is really cool. So thank you guys very much for watching. Again, there will be new videos every single... Oh, we had 94 as peak concurrent. That's pretty cool. As of this week, there'll be new videos every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll be doing another live stream probably at around 9 or 9:15 next week. Maybe 8. I'm going to try to work on getting that done a little bit earlier for you guys. I know 9:15 is really late. It is raining really hard all of a sudden. It's probably a good time to end this. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all the super chats. I really appreciate it. They really help. If there's another really young, really new, still growing YouTube channel and you can find a way to help them out, definitely consider trying to figure out a way to help them out on Patreon or something like that. Because even those super chats are going to help me tremendously this month as I'm starting my first full year's YouTube channel, which is kind of nuts. Anyway, I'm just starting to ramble. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys throughout this week in the comments section and next Monday night on a live stream. Thank you so much. And as always, until next time. I'm going to have some rebuilding. I think the defense was impressive, and I think that's something that's going to keep going. They have to get better at, first off, injuries. They have to having injuries really hurt them, especially in the running game last year. Quarterbacks have to make better decisions, but that does lead to a story. Miami sophomore quarterback Malik Young's football career is over after a neck injury he sustained in the Orange Bowl against Wisconsin. He kind of hinted at it on Twitter, and then the team confirmed it, I think, yesterday. It really sucks. He's one of the reasons that team started 10-0 and really blossomed out to number 2 in the nation, and he got better as the year went on. The play I remember most about him this year was the interception against Notre Dame that felt like a dagger in the Irish's heart in that game, even though it was only, I think it was 17-0 when he did that in the second quarter. So whenever a player's career is cut short due to injury, I always think that sucks. So that's story number 1. Again, none of these are good stories. I think the biggest college football story this week is probably Washington State quarterback Tyler Hilinski, who tragically took his own life with a rifle in his apartment, I think last Tuesday. I was actually going through comments on the channel, and somebody talked about it in one of the video comments, and I was like, whoa, what? He played very well when he came in for Luke Falk during the season, whenever Falk had some troubles on the field with turnovers and not being able to move the ball at times. Played brilliantly, I thought. I thought Washington State was in great hands with him. Seemed like the entire future was there for him. And it's always a shame when somebody that young makes a decision like that. And obviously my thoughts and prayers are going out to his family and the whole Pullman community. It seems to have hit that whole town and university pretty hard. It goes without saying, but people need to say it more, I think. If you have any issues, if you're struggling with anything, if you're bummed out, if you're not yourself, if you're losing interest in things that you used to have interest in, definitely make sure to reach out and talk to someone. That may just be getting a beer with a friend. That may be going and getting actual counseling. That may be medication. That may mean new change of scenery. Whatever it is, just don't do that. Don't let it get to that part. The weirdest and saddest thing of that is Mike Leach said that he didn't even seem to show that many symptoms of depression. Not that there are symptoms of depression for everyone, but still, make sure you tell people you love them. Make sure you're reaching out. Make sure you're checking in on people. Make sure everything's okay, because that's always a tragedy, especially with a kid that seemed to have so much ahead of him. So, another not great story. Kansas State's head coach Bill Snyder's grandson, Matthew Snyder, was found dead this week. The official stance on it is that it was called it's been called unintended with no foul play. So it wasn't like he was sick. It wasn't like somebody broke in. So that makes me think it was either accidental or purposeful drug overdose or suicide. So again, this just highlights nobody is safe from depression or from accidents. Just be careful. Just watch out for people. Watch out for everybody. His father was Sean Snyder, Bill Snyder's son. He was an All-American punter, and he has been a special teams coordinator since 2011 at K-State, but been on the staff as an assistant since he graduated in 1994. So, yeah, eat the chicken gaming. I agree. It's what happened in Pullman is not good. Somebody said thoughts on U of A. So because college football is vast, U of A could mean University of Alabama, or it could mean University of Arizona. Speaking of Arizona, if that's what you were referring to, former Arizona head coach Rich Rodriguez had another claim filed against him in the sexual harassment that I actually talked about in the video where he got fired. That's kind of the reason that Arizona gave for firing him after the conclusion of an investigation. This one is also against Rich Rodriguez's wife and the university, and it claims that the alleged victim's husband as well is also filed in the suit. So it's the couple against Rich Rod, his wife, and the university. It includes an additional $8.5 million lawsuit, bringing the total to $16 million. And it includes the same allegations as the first one, but adds slander, defamation, invasion of privacy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, according to the plaintiff. I guess that's the word. I guess you have plaintiff and defendant. So according to the plaintiff, Arizona players were sending her dick pics and lewd sexually harassing text messages. She went to Rich Rod about the issue and he did nothing. So now she's suing him in addition for that because of stress that it put on her and apparently her husband. And the last story before we get to NFL playoffs and the ACC scheduling is Stanford senior quarterback Keller Christ has decided to transfer. He took the job over from Ryan Burns in 2016, but lost it to KJ Costello in 2017. He'll finish up at Stanford with 1,926 yards and 19 touchdowns. He is a senior. He's graduating in May, so he'll be a grad transfer, and he'll be able to play immediately at any school that he lands at. So those were the actual stories for the week. Chat didn't refresh. There we go. Thoughts on Easton, rather. I think it's good. I think Washington is a good place for him. I think him and Jake Browning at times seem to have... I mean, I would put Jake Browning ahead of him. But I think they have similar skill sets from what I've been able to see. So I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's a good pick. Will Hurts transfer? I don't know. I don't think so. There's no indication he will. I mean, he cut his dreadlocks off, and I actually found out about that from Tua tweeting it. You know, at the championship walk, they seem kind of like big brother, little brother. So he's already a sophomore. Transferring is, you know, you only get 1 year at the next school. I don't know. I don't see him transferring. I'm sure Alabama can figure out a way to incorporate him into kind of a run-based offense, and you know, he's the perfect Wildcat player, right? He can come in and run it. He can throw it. He is probably the most dangerous runner on the team. So, can I play Minecraft on my channel? Yeah, unfortunately, no. I'm too old. I don't get the Minecraft thing. I know that was a joke. You said joking. I don't get the Minecraft thing at all. I don't understand why kids like it. I don't care why. I don't know why it's entertaining. Can you do a video on certain battle cries? Yes. I actually have one not listed, not one that you listed. I have one on Rock Chalk Jayhawk coming out in a week or two that I've planned. Will Bo Pelini ever get a job? He's at Youngstown State still, right? I don't think he got let go of... Yeah, he's still there. So he has a job. Faux Pelini doesn't. Faux Pelini sits at home and tweets. What do you think about Liberty's movement to the Sun Belt? I'll have to do a little bit more research on Liberty football. I want to put a video just about... Hey, lifers. Dustin here. Hopefully you can see and hear me. YouTube says everything is going good. Had a few technical difficulties on YouTube's side before the stream started, so hopefully everything is going good. How is everybody doing? I hope you all had a great week and a great weekend. I definitely did. The Philadelphia Eagles embarrassed the #1 defense in the NFL to cruise to the Super Bowl, the Eagles' third. So I had a great night last night. Hey, Dean. Hey, super long name. Hey, also super long name. Boiler Squad, Parker Shelton, Dean, Dennis, Jack. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. So this is going to be a little bit different than it has been the last, actually every stream I've ever had. I want to do college football news. So there hasn't been a whole lot. It's still kind of in the little bit of a dead period until really March. You know, National Signing Day will come and go in February, and then NFL Combine and all that stuff. And really, March is when the off-season news will really start to happen. But I do have a handful of stories here to talk about with you guys. The two biggest ones that I think I could talk about the longest, I'm going to save until the end, which is ACC released their 2018 football schedules. We can look it over the schedules with you guys, and the NFL playoffs, which I alluded to, where the Eagles and Patriots are going to meet up in Super Bowl 52. So even though this is a college football channel, I'm perfectly fine talking about some NFL after that as well. So, yeah, we got 60 people in here already, so that's pretty cool. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and if you enjoy the stream at any time, just make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If YouTube has suggested this video to you, either while it's live or in the replay, and you enjoy college football content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you are in the live chat, definitely make sure to engage. I'll try to talk to you guys as much as possible. Thank you, Keegan. I appreciate it. But yeah, I want to get through a couple of these stories. None of them are good. Every single one is sad. So kind of power through some of these. Unfortunately, off-season news doesn't typically tend to be like, look, this awesome person did this awesome thing. It tends to be suspensions or fights or drugs or, in this case, a death. So we definitely are gonna talk about some of that. Hello, JP, the gaming vlogger. Hello, everybody. Patriots 27, Eagles 20. I don't know. So, real quick, before we get into everything, I'll save that for the NFL discussion. A few notes to start. I'm going to have new videos every single day, all week. They're going to go live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. I will do another live stream again next Monday night at 9:15, same time every week. I might start trying to get it down to 8 o'clock. I know 9:15 is kind of late for some people on the East Coast, but it's kind of right now the earliest I can stream. I'll try to get down. Get that down a little bit earlier. Hey, Bradley Anderson. All right. I wonder if that'll show up on the stream. I'm still getting used to live streaming. Like, I can see messages. I wonder if you can see. I just put somebody in timeout. Just don't be a jerk in the chat. I will. If I see you, I will do something. No, it doesn't show it. Okay, I put somebody in timeout. It didn't show you guys. First story I'm gonna talk about real quick. I'm not going to harp on it a lot. Last week, YouTube did announce that there is a new monetization policy. You have to have 4,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers in the last 12 months in order to be monetized. I meet that criteria. I'm perfectly fine. Hashtag humble brag. I actually, thanks to you guys are really the ones doing it, but I have met that watch time so far in January. So this slow month. So I'm good. Live streams really help out. But the reason I'm starting this off is saying if there are other YouTube channels that you watch that don't quite meet that and are struggling in some way, definitely make sure to kind of prop them up. It's been kind of demoralizing to a lot of other YouTube creators, and I understand that, especially if they were on the cusp of being monetized. So you won't be able to give them super chats, but if they have a product, maybe watch the video a little longer if you're really enjoying the content. However it is that you can help them out, definitely make sure to do that. And January for monetization on this channel has been dumb. There's no money in YouTube in January. This is my first real off-season, my first real January on YouTube. And they were not wrong in saying that it's bad. So if you want to support this channel, the best way to do that right now is to watch, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff. But during a live stream like this, if you want to throw a super chat here or there, donate $1 or $2. There's no pressure. You definitely don't have to. But if you do, it'll be much obliged. And it's the only way to really guarantee that I will see whatever it is you have to say. So there is that. So let's start with actual news real quick. Hashtag humble brag. Let's start with, you know what? How about this? Let's change it up. The Milkman says, do you think Miami will be as good as they were last year? I don't know. They're